Welcome to episode 16 of OTD, your daily dose of soccer history by 17 Laws Guy. It's November 16, 1991, the very first FIFA Women's World Cup. A red banner of noise, a green pitch slick with humidity, and China versus Norway to start it all. The tournament's first match, China versus Norway, in front of approximately 65,000 at Shanghai Stadium in Guangzhou. In the 22nd minute, Ma Li heads in the historic first goal in Women's World Cup history to set the tone, and the hosts run away with it in second half. Norway will have their say later, but the night belongs to China and the brand new era they just announced. 8 days of group play, then knockouts, compact and fierce. Norway recover and charge all the way to the final, meaning they play both the opener and the last of the tournament. In that final, USA beat Norway 2-1, Michelle Akers scoring both. Norway's riposte isn't enough on this day, because in the next Women's World Cup in 1995, it's Norway who comes out on top, with US in third place. A dynasty spark is struck for the US, however, who will go on to also win in 99, 2015 and 2019, with Spain seizing the latest crown in 2023. But why these teams, and why here? There was no global qualifying ladder yet. In 1991, continental championships were repurposed as qualifiers. Norway arrived from the Nordic nursery that had incubated strong women's programs long before many big nations woke up to it. Their resilience is astonishing for small populations. Norway, winners of the 95 crown, Sweden with multiple finals and medals and a third place in 2023, and Denmark, powers even in the unofficial pre-FIFA tournaments. China in the late 80s, early 90s built a national program with serious state support and a technical style that would produce the Steel Roses. In the United States, women's soccer had been seeded through a massive college pipeline in the 1970s after the passing of a law that eliminated gender-based discrimination for relevant federal funds and spurred many colleges to adopt women's soccer. In the late 1980s, the US national team had been established and quickly matured, which was on full display in that inaugural tournament in 1991. Under coach Anson Dorrance, the US leaned into athletic pressing and direct, ruthless finishing, with the Chinese press calling the frontliner Michelle Akers center forward and the two wingers Karen Jennings and April Heinrichs the triple-edged sword. Other players, not least the 19-year-old Mia Hamm, would carry the mantle into the next generation. Women's football had flourished before. The Kerr Ladies drew massive crowds in the 1910s and 20s, only for the English FA to ban women's matches on its ground in 1921. It took 50 years until it was rescinded in 1971. Meanwhile, the women kept playing. The unofficial World Cups in 1970 in Italy and 1971 in Mexico were won by Denmark. At Azteca, there was an estimated crowd of over 100,000, and it proved there was an audience and an elite level. By 1991, it was time for the official stage. But get this, in 1991, Women's World Cup matches were two halves of not 45, but 40 minutes. FIFA, or rather the men at the very top, framed it as prudent for workload and tempo in a brand new global event. Critics, and many players surely, saw as outright sexism. The ball size question was also floated in the era, whether women should use a smaller or lighter ball, again reflecting the period's bias, and men. Nobody changed the ball. The size 5 stayed, luckily. By 1995, the finals moved to standard 90 minutes, an overdue correction that looks obvious today. And now to why the World Cup opener on this day in 1991 still matters today. First, it was a proof of concept. Big crowds in China and a compelling on-field product convinced skeptics inside FIFA and IOC that the women's game could anchor major events. The success of 91 was a major factor cited as women's football was added to the Olympic program for Atlanta 1996, where the US struck gold and the sports audience exploded again. It all worked as a seed for US dominance and, in turn, funding to propel the sport onward and upward. The 91 win, Title IX's tailwinds since 1972, and a national team focused, created a model others have chased, and lately even matched. In Europe, Scandinavia and Germany led in the 1970s and way into the 90s. Now, in addition to mainstay Germany, it's England, Spain, and France who power the UEFA Women's Champions League era, drawing the world's best, including many of US best players, into club hubs. From Dick Kerr Ladies packing English grounds in the 1910s and 20s, before the FA's long ban, to unofficial Women's World Cups in the 70s and 80s, the women's game has repeatedly proven demand, only to be told to wait. China 1991 finally turned the lock. Today, the NWSL and top European leagues share the talent pool. The Champions League is a global showcase, and World Cup audiences keep smashing records. The journey from the very first 80 minutes to this day in 1991 to sold-out global finals in women's soccer today is the sport's best plot twist. That's all for episode 16 of OTD, the night China launched the Women's World Cup and Norway bookended history. Got ideas, sources, or insights from the global game? Email us at otd@17lawsguy.com. Subscribe and leave us a 5-star review so soccer passionate of all genders can find us. Tomorrow, November 17, 1993's Judgment Night in UEFA qualifying. Italy versus Portugal at San Siro. France's last-minute collapse to Bulgaria. England's 8-second shock in Bologna. Wales' bar-shattering penalty. Spain's 10-man win over Denmark. Ireland's nerve in Belfast. And Argentina's playoff escape versus Australia the very same evening. Don't miss it.